Well, all right. Let's see here. Okay. This is something I'm just doing, not really expecting anybody to be tuning in. The Turcopolier's account of critical race theory in America. While the importance of exploring the history of critical race theory can't be denied, it has been well done by many content creators that are now categorized in American culture as right-wing. Of course, harkening back to the French Revolution's image of the left and right wing, and that is not my concern here. The word theory, and as they apply it, it becomes more clear by the results, the means, the outputs, what it is at its pith. Easy. Critical race theory, social justice, being woke is fundamentally easy. They're inexact, of gossamer substance, and these quasi of knowledge are championed by the dishonest, the incurious, the intellectually lazy. The hardest part about confronting this plateful of rewarmed tripe is that it is obviously the bailiwick of the middle class and their college-educated daughters that feel themselves too important to do research or work in fields of specialized knowledge worthy of the remuneration they demand. Demand would hire them to study the hard sciences and to seek remuneration in the private sector, engineering, or providing rare and specialized services that are dominated by men willing to sacrifice 50, 70-hour work weeks to accomplish. Critical race theory, as I will use it as an umbrella term for the ideologies mentioned above, is used to replace the classical education past generations used to become well-rounded via the Septivian and ways, fields of study by which the individual can observe and measure the phenomenal world. Critical race theory is used in lieu of the Septivian because of the necessity of such methods like the art of memory. Phonics and multiplication tables are mastered by memorization and application. Critical race theory is similar to an artist being incapable of observing and drawing what they see by applying tried and true methods to, say, a phony like Jackson Pollock hurling paint at a canvas. A child's poor artistic rendering of something they see, it is marveled at mostly by women, shining on the effeminate and immature minds of a generation who have had their grades inflated. This may seem a harsh opinion and is firmly based in observation of the present labor force, the elucidating nature of social media to expose candidly what people are capable of, and reports of what institutions are experiencing. An institutional example from the Gateway academic website citing the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. When high school graduates enroll in college, as many as 1 million students fail placement exams every year. Well over 1/3 of all college students need remedial courses in order to demonstrate that a graduate is ready for college. Students' inadequate preparation for higher education has become a deep and widespread concern. Some of the nation's most selective universities, like the University of Wisconsin-Madison, now test all incoming students in order to determine who needs extra academic help. Ivy League universities like Dartmouth College offer year-long remedial courses in writing. Graduates from prestigious secondary schools struggle with university-level academics. The students who did every densive college remediation states currently, students who enroll in remedial classes are far more likely to drop out than those who do not. And although there isn't much research on the effectiveness of various approaches to remediation, there are many small institutional efforts that hold great promise. The Gateway Academic Program of the University of the District of Columbia, an open admissions institution, recently selected 17 students out of 43 applicants to participate in a summer math boot camp. Those selected were considered to be the most academically disadvantaged. As a result of an intensive 8-week program, 9 students tested out of both remedial math courses and 5 others tested out of basic remedial math. 1 student dropped out, but the remaining 2 students also made considerable progress. End quote. Without good evening, or good morning. Without remediation, we would not have these know-it-alls demonizing their white American male counterparts, the labor force and academia as vehemently as they demonized Newton and Aristotle, with the claim that Western European traditions of education are inherently white supremacy in some manifest form. One might say, I don't see this around me. After they go through their full educational process, they are well-rounded and see things more clearly than an older generation. I have noticed that Alexandria Ocasio or Cortez is quite exemplary of this inferiority, unable to use words of 5 syllables generally, and rarely using any terminology from the field of market economics, a field she supposedly obtained a degree in, with any frequency or effectiveness, coming across as a pretty average bimbo. Charlotte Iserbyt has done fantastic work chronicling the fall of phonics, a field of study absolutely necessary for the advanced use or the adult use of the English language. Social media makes clear Generation X and beyond simply can't use the language well, with studies on the linguistic complexity of writing falling, resulting in dependence upon small words, slang, and poorly parsed phrases and sentences. These are the norm, not simply because of the 200 characters or less aspect of Twitter, but rather the abysmal training in the trivium of logic, grammar, rhetoric in particular. Speakers, politicians, even professional entertainers will gesticulate in uncomfortable and juvenile ways, as if flinging water off their fingertips, pointing at the audience as if forcing their thoughts out. This can be compared to a more refined, well-trained generation of singers from the 1950s Motown, Donald Trump's controlled gesticulations, and a performer like Frank Sinatra, moving his hands and body in harmony with the lyrics of his song. I find that AOC's popularity among Millennial and Generation X progressives is quite exemplary of this tarnishing of the treasures of Western culture, demographic, middle class, and origin, from the suburban end of the urban core, female, entitled, expecting rewards unearned, to a fault, lacking in decorum and urgent beauties of knowledge. Her short-lived physical beauty, as beauty in women is a result of youth, is key to her hustle, her grift, to be paid out by taxpayers. Prior to the Donald Trump administration, toward the latter end of Obama's second term, social justice warrior became an internet phenomena, championing itself as a movement built around ending the epidemic of campus rape and sexual assault, going so far as to make claims that there is a rape culture, a permissive attitude resulting in tacit support widely of rape and sexual assault, although such crimes, when analyzed demographically, are rare among the type of men who would attend a 4-year educational institution. Rape and sexual assault are far more frequently a crime of poor, antisocial males with a history of violence and recidivism. As Colin Flaherty has shown in his volumes of work on the subject and his controversial social media career, we find a pattern of journalists simply ignoring that rape and sexual assault in this country seem to be concentrated in urban cores where you have a high proportion of black males in comparison to other ethnic groups, and these cities often have a long backlog of testing the evidence gathered from the victims, ensuring that rapists go undiscovered and unpunished for long periods of time. Carabas, a 3-headed ancient beast of myth and lore, is manifested in this strange new faith of critical race theory and wokeness as the amorphous demons of poverty, racism, and bad nutrition preying upon the future of Hispanic and Black people, the body inequality itself. These Mascots of the progressives are never held to the same standard as Americans of Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Indian, or Filipino extraction, groups that often are noted as achieving greater success than their white male counterparts who, of course, have had access to the English language for hundreds of years. These claims that the miserable blacks and Hispanics don't have food, they're treated unequally, they're so very poor, does not in any way dovetail with reality, being these groups live in America, a nation notorious for its gluttony to the point of shocking amounts of waste of foodstuffs. The myth is that blacks in particular have no grocery stores available, although they live disproportionately in urban cores with health food chains such as Whole Foods widely available. Hispanic immigrants fade from such conversations because, well, white progressives and wokies frequent their eating establishments for the particular reason that the meals they serve are relatively rare delicacies of their country's origin, with the use of fruits like tomatoes, mangoes, limes, and avocados being key, highly nutritive ingredients. Nobody is going to the Chitlin house, and frankly, collard greens cooked until they are unrecognizable sludge is just not even half as popular. Jamaican curry dishes, Ethiopian food, these are considered delicious, luxurious of the urban dweller. So popular family restaurants serving such food will frequently expand out of necessity. The who, what, where, and why of critical racist theorists has fascinated me because I've worked in the lowest tiers of the labor force. I've seen, spoken to, and observed these people. I've seen what music they enjoy, how they speak about cinema and television, which they are obviously far more familiar with than, say, Thomas Sowell's library of writings on race, history, culture, and economics, and have noticed distinct patterns. Many of these women go into a field of science such as biology, not to hire on to a firm like Intellia Genomics. I suggest you go to Facebook, search for the word genomics, and start following what turns up. But instead, they have the great aim of becoming a school teacher, a role once understood to be the training ground for motherhood, or a field empty nesters and nuns dominated. Women train the young, and have for 100 years, with fewer and fewer men being a considerable part of this process since the 1960s. Parental negligence, bastardy, and ease of access to labor-saving technology, causing laziness, mental lethargy, and resulting in obesity have much more to do with the causes of America's laggard problem than restricting Aristotelian and Boolean logic to the young and diverse populations of urban America. Maybe we have to confront a harsh idea that is common to the progressives and wokies, that the issue is similar to their opinion of the traditionalists and rural white poor. Maybe their parents are just lazy, dumb, and vice-ridden without the husbandry of equality that can instill virtue in their progeny, because that would indict women. Effeminate men lean toward wokeness because liberal chicks are easy lays, and women in general, from the fascinating analysis, if America voted along gender lines, what would we see? Tend to be liberal and hold only white men up to a standard. This is why they are bigots, not just bigoted, such they have expectations of white men that are unclear and apply to the whole pride of such lions of the North, but that they see blacks and Hispanic people of heavily indigenous racial admixture as incapable of such a standard. The bigotry of low expectations and woke bros, these Bernie bears with big middles and soft arms, must shine them on, or they will never, ever, ever get their dicks wet. The manosphere formed naturally on the internet as not so much a refuge, but as all things that interest men, a competitive sodality, clubs meeting on the field of ideas and playing rugby in the rain of social justice warrior attacks upon their honor, intelligence, and humanity. This has caused millions of men to question many things. Do women simply hold males in contempt unless a male will provide, like an obsequious servant, scraping and bowing for a chance to be treated with simple human kindness? Do women offer any value to your life other than providing offspring? If we abandon women to these urban pharaohs, is that wrong? Are women capable of the 7 virtues esteemed by the Christian West? Are women duplicitous and dangerous, like an older era of writings countenanced men to understand as true? Do we even need them, and why should we consider them equal and deserving of rights, and in an idea entirely of Western European Christian heritage? Most importantly, are women actually capable of love? The definitive characteristic of the Trinity's energies spreading forth as rays from the sun from his essence. America is not being divided over racial lines and the use of masks to deal with SARS-CoV-2. Oh no, the divide is something much more critical than these things. 2 Americas are forming. The soft secession of the productive class to the red states is showing it. People are abandoning the blue enclaves and their entitled female populations to enjoy their tattoos, cats, dogs, and fabulous cocktails. Virtue, intellectual diligence, rigor and toil, grit, the prudence of tradition and self-discipline of the psyche are the real dividers in a new and greater Americana. I haven't written in quite a number of years. I thought I would write some ideas down. I have the link in the underbar. Turcopolier on minds.com. It's getting a little too early, and I want everybody to enjoy Independence Day. Have a good one.